Ahmed Kamil Mira, distinguished honorable guests, honorable professors, members of academia, members of the industry, members of the media, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome this morning to our wonderful campus. Today's program is about our round table on an important topic, but we would like to start first with reciting the Quran. Please welcome our brother and Imam, student Imam, Abdul Yusuf.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون ولا تكونوا كالذين تفرقوا واختلفوا من بعد ما جاءهم البينات وأولئك لهم عذاب عظيم يوم تبيض وجوه وتسود وجوه فأما الذين اسودت وجوههم أكفرتم بعد إيمانكم فذوقوا العذاب بما كنتم تكفرون وأما الذين ابيضت وجوههم فهم في رحمة الله هم فيها خالدون تلك آيات الله نتلوها عليك بالحق وما الله يريد ظلما للعالمين صدق الله العظيم.
Welcoming speech and introduction of the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadan Nabil Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Okay, first of all, Muzzffar, Hisham, the CEO of Maybank, and our distinguished speakers, our guests, and participants, my students. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm just going to give a very brief welcoming to welcome all of you here to the Institute for this conference, a short one-day conference. I'll give an introduction and then after that we'll hear the most important talks, okay? So you see, for the last few years, we have been having this issues on Islamic financing, home financing particularly, some issues in Islamic home financing, particularly on the issue of abandoned housing projects. So the Consumers Association and a few people have been all the time complaining to us. So you see, one of the objectives of this institute is actually to promote the growth of Islamic finance in a more balanced and just manner, right? Because we believe that Islamic finance is the solution to the current global crisis. But if Muslims themselves, voice out their dissatisfaction, then we need to address it. So here, in the institute, we don't take sides. We don't take sides, but we are here to facilitate, and then amicably, we hope at the end of the day, we can amicably come up with some solutions, something that we can suggest to policymakers, to the bankers and others, so that hopefully, inshallah, that we will, this problem will no longer occur, and the past problems can be solved. And hopefully, such cases also will not, pile up, backlog in the courts. Yeah. So I believe that's the reason why we have brought all the stakeholders. If you see in this room, we have not only bankers, we have central bankers, we have the lawyers. I'm not sure they're judges. In the last conference, we even had judges there here, right? Judges and then academicians, the Sharia scholars. Alhamdulillah, all here, including some victims. So some of the victims, they are here. So if you look at the program, so we have designed in such a way that we give all these parties some room to speak out. And later also you can also speak out. Yeah. So we are not going to take sides, as I was telling you, and not to find faults with anybody. Yeah. That's not the objective of this seminar. But hopefully, inshallah, at the end of the day, we'll find some solutions. Yeah? You see, Islamic finance, when people ask me, what is Islamic finance? Define Islamic finance. I tell them it's very simple, like this in one word. I say, what is Islamic finance? You all know finance deals with the savings side of the economy, right? So you see, it mobilizes, it is the sector industry that mobilizes the savings of the surplus units and then channels to the deficit units, here the consumers and so on, according to Islamic principles. The mobilization also according to Islamic principles, the distribution also Islamic principles. For what? For the attainment of the Maqasid al-Sharia. So it must contribute to the Maqasid al-Sharia. So in that spirit, so hopefully the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take us, all of us here today, as contributing to that, taking part in order to achieve a just solution to this. So that inshallah He will take it that those people, we are here to contribute to the attainment of the maqasid, inshallah. Right? So with that, I would like to also say my heartfelt thanks to Muzzffar, Hisham here, because the Maybank Islamic is the main sponsor of this event, so which is also good, you see, because you're, as a banker, you're contributing towards the development of Islamic finance in a more just and balanced manner. So we would like to say my thanks to Muzzffar, Most of the Islamic Bank, and also to my team. A lot of people work very hard to actually, want to do this. You have to plan months ahead. So, and also to all those involved in making this a success, inshallah. So thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Our next speaker is Mr. Muzzffar Hisham. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Maybank Islamic and Head of the Maybank Group Islamic Banking Business. He is responsible in managing and setting the various key strategies for the group overall Islamic banking business. He is also the Chairman of the Standards Committee in the Association of Islamic Banking Institutions of Malaysia. Mr. Muzzffar has collectively over 18 years of experience in the banking and financial services industry. Formerly, he was the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of CIIB Islamic Bank and Director sitting on the board of CIIB Insurance Brokers. He also served in various senior capacities with CIMB Islamic Bank and HSBC Amana. Mr. Muzzffar started his career with Asian International Merchant Bankers in the corporate banking division. He later joined Amana Merchant Bank, Berhad, and Amana Short Deposit, Berhad. He was also involved in various debt and corporate restructuring exercises in the Asian financial crisis. In recognition of Mr. Muzzffar Hisham's contribution to growing and developing Islamic finance globally, he was awarded the 2013 Islamic Banker of the Year Award by Asset Triple Global Awards. Mr. Muzzffar holds a bachelor's degree in science in economics and accounting from the University of Bristol, United Kingdom. Please welcome Mr. Muzzffar.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. The organizers, thank you on the housing. I'll be very honest and upfront. The reason why I'm here as a keynote address speaker is it's not because we're an expert about housing, but we, as mentioned by Prof earlier, because we sponsored it as well. But rest assured, this is a topic that we are very passionate about. I think we have discussed with a lot of academicians as well, with our Sharia team, with our product management team. It's a conversation that we want to continue and we want to invest in. Islamic banking, and this year Maybank Islamic has gone about 20 years already after its window incorporated. Islamic banking has grown tremendously in Malaysia. We are blessed of its growth. We are blessed with the support by the government and the people. And I believe the last couple of years now is time for us in a crossroad for Islamic banking. The flag bearer to promote Maqasid of Sharia, which was mentioned earlier, is something that we need to pursue and pursue very quickly. It's given the last decade or so, whatever that the conventional offering has, Islamic has. And it's a must. We need to build our base. We need to build the business within the rules of Sharia, and of course as banks under the central bank relevant regulations and act. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning I thought of maybe highlighting a few key points, and I thought maybe it will be some key points for discussion and conversation that the fellow speakers and experts around this morning are able to discuss. And I thought I may want to point out on 4 point areas. You know, if you look in terms of housing, I always look at it in the sense that we start from the start to the way to the end. And the start means from the house buyer's perspective, the supply and demand, and eventually the environment of the housing area, development and so forth. The focus of conversation, of course, is focusing more to Malaysia, and it's very, as I mentioned earlier, it's very dear a topic to most of us here in the bank. Why? Later I'll show you some statistics, and there are a lot of conversation among, not just in terms of numbers and statistics, but also we have spoken to customers and our clients, the challenges and the experience that Malaysians have challenged in getting homes. Or challenges was to put a big down payment. My big entire savings is putting to a developer who built the house, and I'm not sure whether that house will come up or not. That is a bit of a scary thought. You also got to bear in mind not only just that you put in the big deposits, but you already kick in your financial mortgage as well. And at that point in time, and most often than not, you do also rent a house. So there may be a point in time where you pay both rent and mortgages together. And if suddenly the house is not ready or is not at its quality, you might end up double your cost. Now this is a real life fact. The initial down payment of the home is one of the biggest challenges for a homeowner to buy. And I hope we would able to have this conversation and see how we could challenge this, how we could overcome these challenges. Now, a few points to ponder of the role of finance here. And when we were looking in terms of the Islamic banking, and we thought a point of conversation is how could ijara financing play in the picture here? A lease-to-own mechanism. Imagine if you don't have to put a down payment, a bank own a home, and you can just literally walk in and rent the house, and along the way you pay a certain terms and condition that you're going to eventually pay the leases or the rental, and you eventually own the house. So it's like a long-term lease, but eventually you own the home. Now, a lot of debate and discussion about this, and one of the debate is, oh, hang on, I don't feel like I own the house. But literally, even if you have a mortgage now, you don't literally own the house, because if you forfeit, you don't pay the home, that house is going to be foreclosed. But the challenge for finance or banking is that ownership of the property is going to be capital intensive. As a bank, we're going to hold that capital for the rest of our ownership of that home. And that's something, a conversation with the regulators that we need to think about. How eventually you could pare down the capital commitment. And as you know, with all various experts here and on the floor, with all the Basel III capital and so forth, capital is very expensive at this juncture for most banks, for all banks particularly. And I've got to be careful what I say about capital, because I know some Bank Negara folks are here, and I know I always have the debate with them in Basel III all the time, so that's another conversation altogether. So please don't penalize Maybank if we disturb or we talk about capital. But I may not have the solution here, but I thought a point of conversation. So in terms of a buyer's perspective, how we could ease a buyer to buy the home and the challenges of a down payment. Now, a second point I'd like to just share is maybe in terms of the housing development costs. In Malaysia, as you may be aware, most property developers build the house, and during construction they will sell the house. And there is this challenge where if you are a buyer, you may have the challenge of the quality of the home. Or, in this example, in this topic of conversation today, the abandonment of houses. I was just having breakfast this morning with our fellow experts and on the table, and I was just sharing, and I said, I'm not surprised if you group 10 Malaysians in a room, I guarantee you 8 out of 10 will complain their first home, the quality is not at par. And how do we overcome it? And this is talking about supposedly quality developers, and I apologize if any of the developers, property developers are here, but it's a fact of life. If there is a new development, you will walk in and a new home, I guarantee you there's a lot of challenges on the quality of the house. Now, a point of ponder again, what is the role of finance we could look at? And I know this conversation has always been talked about, a role of potential partnership or musyarakah between a finance and a property developer. This is also very challenging as well because of capital as well. We as financiers are bankers but not property developers. Now, how do we put the parameters of partnership between a property developer and financiers? The other potential opportunity we could explore, if we have that musyarakah part and to a conversation to resolve capital, we could create a fund of sort and open this opportunity for retail investors or institutional investors to invest specifically on various property development in the type of a form of mudarabah, muqayadah type of investment. Bank Negara it should be applauded in coming up with some form of risk absorbent guidelines they have came out over the last 6-7 years ago, and now even in the new Islamic Financial Services Act have focusing on the role of mudarabah as well. So this is another point to explore, conversation to look at to address the issue of cost of capital. Or maybe on my third point, to explore about the quality of developers. Why not rating agencies with some form of agencies together with the housing ministry and so forth to ensure developers are being rated, not just bankers or banks, but also property developers. If developer A, property developer B, if they were to combine with a AAA bank, if this combination, what would be their rating would be? So a blue chip property stock, maybe a blue chip property stock in terms of returns in ROEs and profits and so forth. But if in terms of quality of their delivering homes may not be at par, they get downgraded in terms of their rating. So a food for thought. A look at a joint rating in terms of delivering quality homes and ensuring banks are providing enable financial solutions to the buyers and also to developers. Now, last but not least, if I may just touch on something also we are very dear to our conversation in the bank, is regarding environment and urban development. And this is a question of sustainability, ladies and gentlemen. We talk about location, we talk about congestion, density, how about pollution, excess of roads. Now, and this is my personal opinion, and I hope, I apologize if I sound very harsh here, I believe Kuala Lumpur in a way is very congested. I think conversation needs to take a look in development outside suburban or sub-satellite cities along in Malaysia, particularly, say, for example, about Malacca, Ipoh, or even to the east coast towards Kuantan and Kuala Terengganu. We have technology in terms of various fast speed of internet, various modern way of communication. We need to find ways how to develop, grow these cities, and in a way, indirectly, I believe, would develop our general form of economy and not just concentrating in the key cities, or particularly like Kuala Lumpur. It scares me sometimes to see the development in a certain area, the type of possible density and congestion that it could create, and we are already seeing it, not only just in downtown Kuala Lumpur, but also in some of our homes in suburban Klang Valley that we've seen that. If you build a nice taman or property development, guarantee you the next day you might find there's a big office satellite there or a big shopping mall next to it, and if you really look in terms of the density ratio, it would be affected dearly. We need to look at quality of life for Malaysians. We have to ensure that we want to have a better quality of life, not just a home, but the whole environment of not just a roof on top of our head, but the whole sense of security and well-being of our future generations. And that's something that I hope, with all due respect, municipalities, state government and federal government really need to sit down and be very clear how they want to achieve that, and maybe, and with all due respect, put politics aside and look at the improvement of our quality of life. And I applaud folks like IIBF to have this sort of seminar, to have this sort of conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, just to share with you a little bit of statistics that our team has got. You know, here I think it's in your deck, is to look at some of the quality of life index, and we group up among the ASEAN countries and some of the key cities. I thought countries like the Scandinavian countries and some of the big cities as well, and it would be interesting to see the type of statistics that we look at. I saw one number which was very interesting under the property price to income ratio. It looks as if we have cheap property prices at about 9 as compared to Bangkok, to Jakarta and Manila, but I don't think that number reflects to the percentage of home ownership to Malaysians. So there's a little bit of gap, you know, that means there's affordability that we can, but we still talk about a question of home ownership. So is it supply, is it demand? That's something that I thought a point to ponder as well. And, it'd be interesting to see about the safety index as well. We're at 31, close to Manila at 34. Of course, this is arbitrary. We don't have the details how they look at the indexes. So it's in your deck, and I just thought maybe a bit of a bedtime reading on your statistics before you want to take a look a bit. Now, the interesting about Malaysia also, we got to be mindful we're not as an aging population like Singapore or even like Japan. So that means we need to invest for our future generation. Yes, the rate of growth is declining, but you will see, in my view, the demographic of youth all the way to even 2020, it's still a young nation, and this is where the conversation about property and ownership is very important. And this is the age group that I was mentioning about. If you look at even the in 2020, the demographic of between the age of 15 to 64 is approximately about 70% or 69% projection. And this is from the statistics from the Ministry of the Prime Minister's Department as well. So again, a point to ponder. We need to address this because our future generation need homes to stay, and again looking at the quality of life index as well. Last but not least, we also got to be mindful about becoming a high income economy. At the moment, and I think this number looks at 2010, and I'm not surprised this percentage has not changed even up to last year. We still have a big band of approximately of our population income share, approximately about 20 to 25% in my view, between an income between 3,000 to 5,000 ringgit per month income class. Now I'll leave it food for thought. Does this deem as middle income? Does this deem as lower middle income? And this is related again to the quality of life that we all envisage to have as being a Malaysian. Now, I think I have more questions than answers, but I hope this is a point of conversation I thought this morning for such an important seminar, I believe, and that's the reason why we are very honored and privileged to have this opportunity with IIBF in terms of our conversation ahead. Once again, I sincerely apologize if any of the remarks I mentioned are not or may hurt anyone, or it's not intentionally. This is more to hope that we have the right conversation in the industry. And once again, I like to wish to thank the organizers for having us the opportunity to participate. And I hope today we'll have a good productive day for all the participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and thank you very much.
Please stay here. Would you?
Illegal, unlicensed housing developers. Thank you. Thank you. I hope there's no press, but I'll be very honest with you, it is out of luck. It is out of luck. I think we are very lucky that we didn't have that exposure. And this is true experience, that how I wish, and I hope any representative from the housing ministry will be able to have some form of grading or rating to the developers. We can look at the numbers. We can look at how the companies run, personnel is being backed by. But what is their track record in terms of quality, deliverables, getting licensed? Now, all this bit, my wish, I hope there's some form of grading from the housing or the local municipality to say, very robust, very stringent credit rating when we look at giving financing. But we are very lucky that we do not have the exposure to abandoned houses project. But thank you for the nice 3-minute quote there. Yes, sir.
I'm an lecturer here. IIUM. I understand Maybank is a pioneering bank. They start the concept of Musyarakah Mutanahasah in home financing. And I think this concept now has been widely used by other banks as well. To what extent has this concept been widely used as alternative to the BBA? And in terms of market share, has this concept been fulfilled?
Type of financing rather than a true form of shirkah type of financing. So I'm going to be quite candid here. It is still very much form of a direct type of financing rather than a risk sharing per se. Or I think some of the experts here very much aware in the form of the school of shirkah part of it. But just to highlight, because of the recent guidelines out of the bank government, particularly BDA, a lot of our key financing for mortgages is going to two, mostly Musyarakah Mutanahasah and commodity murabah. Because of the risk that we may find if the interconditionality part of BDA, the documentation there is an operational risk that we find that there is to it. Particularly if I were to sell the house and if suddenly the buyer doesn't want to sell back, I might end up the property to the bank use. But my point earlier on Musyarakah partnership is actually identify clear risk with the property developer, really develop together, putting the investment. But you've got to be mindful and empathy to the people who sit on our board and the people who sit in our credit risk side. And even, with all due respect to the regulators itself, suddenly a bank is getting exposed literally in financing property development and the real sense of it. Now, what's the level of acceptance? What's the level of tolerance on that bit? That's the part that we've got to be a bit more granular, and the devils are in the details. How do we manage that risk? Ladies again, gentlemen, I always remind this to my team. We're in banking, we're actually not in the business of financing, we're actually in the business of managing risk. That is our primary business. And this is the part that we need to manage in the various types of investments. But I'm confident, inshallah, as an Islamic bank, this is the conversation that we're going towards. And as I said earlier, as a crossroad, the direction that we're looking at, and I think the encouragement is also not only just from the board, but also from the regulators. But generally, in terms of to sell the product, I'll be very honest, the commodity murabah is much more easier for our customers to understand. Vis-a-vis in terms of MM or Musyarakah Mutanahasah. So sometimes, we can understand it. Day in, day out, we all read about it and live with it. But as a normal walking customer, commodity murabah seems to be more easier. They can understand the concept of buy and sell, and as long as they know, end of the day, even though I get a mortgage, that home is mine. MM can be a bit concerned from them in terms of the lease date, the reduction of sharing of equity and so forth in the documentation. Maybe one last one. Yes, sir.
Quality of life being taken into account as a factor. Also, I would think that the issue of social justice also must be taken into account in housing development. In your approval of financing for housing development, will you take these factors into account?
Yes. It's not just the financing numbers and so forth. The gentleman from Persatuan Islam also mentioned, guess this is a company behind a certain shareholder, but to be very honest and upfront, sometimes we don't know who behind the shareholders and what are the track record that they have. As you know, some property developers usually have a subsidiary. If we are lucky, we can dig up all the way who are the main sponsors of the company. And I'll be very honest with you. Sometimes the company ABC may have in their shareholders file returns is the company A, company B as shareholders. But literally, is this their shareholders? Now that's the part that as our challenge in reviewing the credit, where we find it a bit more challenging. How deep the disclosure and transparency that we need to take. If you ask me, that's the key challenge. The level of disclosure of who are behind this property developers. But I hope today, as a part of the conversation, it is a serious concern. I mean, not just abandoned houses. As I mentioned about quality of life, the quality of homes. People have put in a huge amount of down payment. Their entire life saving is there. I'm very honest. Even I remember the first time I bought a house, and I wouldn't mention names, me and my wife went to the first home that we got. Very disappointing. And it's from a very so-called reputable developer. Shot me, and the roof was about to leak, and we literally put our life savings there. So it's we've got to be empathy about it to the relation with folks. I know it's easy said and done. Me for us, the banker, we have to talk about it, and we need the financing. But I think the goal is for all of us to take it. And I hope, and that's why we're really passionate about in this conversation this morning, or this today, that was organized by IIUM.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Once again, thank you for your
I would like to ask you to receive a small appreciation.
Thank you.
Prof. Kamil. Thank you very much.
Thanks, boss.